person. Hmm. The GDP is the measurement of what we put out. It's the things that we produce as a country, and the things that we are able to include in our GDP are things that are produced here. So that even counts, like the example in the book, a Japan automakers factory in America. So our GDP is basically what we have and what we are able to output through production. So there's several things that we take into account for your GDP. There are several different approaches that people have given GDP, and there's the first one, which is the expenditure approach, and we calculate the expenditure growth uh, by seeing how much we spend on a variety of goods. Let's say the four categories are consumer goods, business goods, government goods, and our net exports or imports of goods and services. And what this means is that however much we pay for, or however much we are able to spend on certain things, that is a qualification for how much our economy has moved along. The next approach would be the income approach, which is the GDP is calculated by adding up the incomes of every person and firms and households. Um, and we look at this in, again, five different categories: wages, salaries. Second would be the corporate profits. Third would be interest and miscellaneous investments. And the fourth would be farmers' income. And fifth would be income from non-farmer, unincorporated businesses. And you add this up by seeing how much people are getting to spend. What this would help with is people who are able to profit from things, and maybe they put their money in a bank, it gets that money too, instead of just seeing what we spend. We see that there are things that the GDP does. It fluctuates so often, and in the average business cycle, you'll see the GDP go up and down over and over again. And we see that in long-term trends, we'll always have some sort of fluctuation downward because of the free market and because of that. And we see these long trends, and we see trends, and there are always going to be fluctuations, like I already said. But what the government will try to do is to stop those fluctuations from going in so deep. We'll look towards the Great Depression as a time when the fluctuation went so far down that people were very poor, people were having a poor quality of life. And that's one of the things that the GDP is an indicator of. People use the GDP per capita to say how good the quality of life is. And when we look at this, we'll see that countries will use um, fiscal policy, moreover, to create a environment where we can thrive more. And we have to look at that fiscal policy in a way that there we have to enact it in a certain time, and we have to look at it to where we need to have this happen at this certain point. And although there are different phases of uh, like GDP growth and GDP things, we see that unemployment is one of the things that we could look towards to see if our GDP is good, our unemployment should also be low. And there are several types of unemployment. There's seasonal, frictional, structural, and cyclical. And what all these are is frictional basically means the time in between when you want to get a different job, or when you get laid off and you're looking for another job. Seasonal is something that happens during season, during summer jobs, people who are working summer who are working in the summer, those are considered seasonal employees. Structural is when like technology would advance further, and cylindrical is just the cycle and how it would function itself, and that's how it will happen. And when we're in a low place or we're in a low part of our business cycle, we'll see that start to take apart in what we are doing. And we always want to measure employment through the use of the labor force. Like, you cannot measure unemployment through the total population. You have to account for a lot of other things.